Good afternoon. My name is Ed Owen from Her Majesty's Courts and Tribunal Service. Welcome to this latest webinar to talk to legal professionals and professional court users about aspects of the reform programme. Today's focus will be on civil reform, and I'm soon going to introduce Kevin Gallagher, HMCTS's Digital Change Director. That he will be followed, who will set out an overview of the programme. He'll be followed by a presentation from Kerry Greenidge, talking about civil reform, particularly in respect to civil money claims, and that will be followed by a demonstration of the service by Mark James, who works within the project team itself. We'll obviously want to hear questions from all of you who've joined us today. So please do submit your questions online, and please, we've had some pre-submitted questions, which is great, but please do submit questions as the presentation is ongoing, and at the end we will endeavour to answer as many of those as is possible. For those that we can't and don't run out of time to answer, we will answer in written form online. And just to say that we do have a reform programme page on the HMCTS's gov.uk website, where you will be able to see all future events of this sort that are coming up, and that you can apply to attend and register to attend if they're online. And other relevant issues about the wider reform programme. So, without further ado, I will introduce Kevin Gallagher, our Digital Change Director, to talk about the programme as a whole.
Hello, Kevin Gallagher here, and I'm delighted to be able to join you today at this online event. This is part of the series of face-to-face and online events about the reform programme. We want to give legal professionals and professional court users the opportunity to learn about what we are doing, to ask questions, and engage in the shaping of future reforms. Today's session will be led by the project team for online civil money claims. They will also be able to answer questions about wider civil reform, which includes civil enforcement and possession. Following on from the first phase of roadshows that ended last May, and drawing on the feedback we received, we've designed this and other events around particular issues. We're also using remote technology as well as face-to-face events to ensure we engage as widely as possible. So you all have the opportunity to ask questions about wider reform issues, hear from and question Susan Ackland-Hood and other senior colleagues at HMCTS in a series of events that are more jurisdictionally focused over the coming months. As you know, our ambitious programme of court reform is well underway. In collaboration with the senior judiciary and the Ministry of Justice, we're investing £1 billion in reforming the justice system. This transformation programme aims to bring new technology and modern ways of working to make all jurisdictions operate more smoothly and efficiently. We want to improve access to justice, as well as reducing unnecessary costs. This will ultimately benefit all users by courts and tribunals, as well as those who work within them. I think we can all agree that any well-functioning, effective justice system must harness modern technology in support of the rule of law. We know our systems and processes haven't always kept pace with the rapid technology developments around the world, in the world around us. And we also know that we can make justice less confusing, easier to navigate, and better responding to the needs of the public. A great deal of progress on reform has already been made, and many of the changes have come from detailed and active collaboration with professionals, users, and members of the judiciary. We're determined to ensure that all those who work within the justice system, as well as those who care about it and those most impacted by the reforms, are involved and engaged in the process of reform. The civil area of the reform programme will support digital working throughout the civil courts. It will be a digital service that allows users to resolve money disputes in a simple, accessible and proportionate way. It will introduce more consistent working practices. In the possession project, we're making the short hold tenancy possession claim process digital. As a first step, administrative processes will be improved, automated and streamlined to make them more efficient and reliable. Our civil enforcement project is focusing on understanding user needs and identifying opportunities to improve the service. Since the start, it's been looking at these things from first principles, how the process should work, what its users want and need, and how we can make it as efficient as possible. And civil money claims, which was our first of our civil reform projects, provides a simple, largely automated and streamlined new procedure for claiming money. The project team will tell you more and run you through how to issue and respond to a money claim. We've got one of the best legal systems in the world, but it's crucial we move the times and make best use of new technologies to deliver swifter and more efficient justice. In today's digital world, people routinely use and have come to expect simple and easy to use online systems. There are huge opportunities to speed up and simplify our courts and tribunal service. We've already made some great progress, but there's still more work to be done. I hope you'll find it useful, and please do submit questions about any aspect of civil reform to our expert panel throughout the session. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. So I'm now going to introduce Kerry Greenidge, who's going to explain how her team are leading on this project, and she'll be best placed to answer questions at the end. So, Kerry.
Thank you. So, hello, my name is Kerry Greenidge. I'm the Service Manager for Online Civil Money Claims. Today I'll be giving you an overview of the service, and then we'll move to a demonstration by one of our product owners, Mark James, as Ed has already mentioned. We're also joined by Emily Wickens today, who is Head of the Civil Jurisdiction HMCTS, also Service Manager for the Civil Enforcement Project. She will be answering questions along with me at the end of the session, so please do ask those questions. Modernisation of the civil courts will allow people to manage and resolve their disputes fairly and swiftly through the civil justice system. Online civil money claims was the first project that started this journey. It's followed by the High Court project earlier this year. There is also the Civil Enforcement project, and that's been a period of discovery, understanding the needs of users. Should we move into the design and testing stages? As I mentioned just a while ago, Emily Wickens is the Service Manager for that project and is part of this session today. The final civil project is Possession, and that will be launched shortly. The Online Civil Money Claims project vision is a digital by default service that allows users to resolve money disputes in a simple, accessible and proportionate way. The project vision has been shaped and designed by working with our users to understand their needs, but also by working with the judiciary and stakeholders. In particular, reference also to the Civil Court Structure Review, which was published in 2016 by Lord Justice Briggs, and working also with colleagues around civil mediation. So what have we committed to deliver? It's two things. By the end of the project, we will deliver a simple, largely automated and streamlined court procedure for claims up to £25,000 in value. Currently, the claim value within the service is for claims up to £10,000, but that will increase to 25. We will also deliver a streamlined digital pathway working towards a paperless trial for all civil cases. What have we done so far? We are currently focused on delivering an end-to-end journey for litigants in person for claims up to £10,000 in value. We're getting really good feedback on the service, but we also analyse the not so positive feedback, and we'll make sure we use this to iterate and improve the service as it expands in size. We are now heading to nearly 29,000 claims that have been issued since the 26th of March within the pilot, and where a claimant gives an address for the defendant within the service, they will be notified once the claim has been issued instantaneously. Users will also receive a paper copy of the claim in the post, but are able to log on and view the claim and respond to it once they receive their email, should they wish to do so. We also have a private pilot for legal representatives, and currently 10 legal firms are part of that pilot. Just over 1,900 claims have been issued so far. This pilot is helping us to develop, design and test future functionality within this pilot. So who have we engaged with? As I've mentioned already, users at the centre of everything that we are doing. We use research to understand their needs and then test and develop in consultation with those users. We have demonstrated the service at showcases and engagement sessions with professional engagement group, also with the litigant in-person engagement group, attended conferences such as those held by the advice sector, Civil Mediation Council, to talk about the service and plans moving forward. Just some feedback, as I mentioned earlier on, 90% of our users are telling us that they are satisfied or extremely satisfied with our service, and these are just a couple of comments that have come from users within our service. But as I mentioned, we also will look at the feedback that is not always positive, and we will use that to help to iterate and improve the service so that we continue to meet the needs of our users. So what will we do over the next 12 months? We will expand the service, including the current pilot for legal representatives, so that it's available to all users. As I mentioned previously, we're focusing on creating an end-to-end digital journey so that we remove the need for a paper file. However, where users continue to engage with us on paper, that will still be available to them. But we will make a digital file and operate in a digital way within our service. But we will, if that's a preference to use paper, we will continue to operate on paper. In 2019, we will continue to implement improvements to other projects, civil enforcement and possession. As I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, some of this work has already started, but it's in the early stages. For civil enforcement, the project has already engaged with a lot of users and stakeholders to understand needs. The project will simplify and improve the information once a judgment is made, so it fits very neatly to the end of the online civil money claim service, and they will begin with a pilot for writs and warrants of control. The possession project will simplify and digitise the process for possession cases, and is undertaking research to understand how this will be achieved. The project will learn from other services and projects and will be able to reuse some of the capability in those services for their own. Now we will move to a demonstration by Mark James, one of the product owners within online civil money claims.
Okay, so the screen that we're looking at here is in our prototype environment. This enables us to demonstrate what the service does. This service is actually currently live and on gov.uk. And is accessible for people to use currently. The current offering is limited in the sense that you can only issue claims of up to £10,000 with one claimant and one defendant, and some other limitations. To capture those users who wish to issue claims above 10,000 and other limitations, we have eligibility screens to capture those users. I'll just quickly run through the eligibility questions to see whether we can actually use the service to issue a claim. So the first one there is the value, and then do we need help paying court fees? So currently we're not able to deal with help with fees requests, so people would need to issue those claims manually. Okay, let's just answer the rest of the questions. Are you over 18? Or all claimants need to be over 18. We need to make sure that the defendants are over 18 as well. If we answer any questions that don't comply with the current rules, the user will be advised that they can't use our service. So let's just pop back and say, yes, we do believe all users are over 18. Okay, and this again is making sure that you're only issuing against one defendant. And you also can't issue claims against government departments. Okay, congratulations, we can use the service. Now that we've answered all those questions, we can start to make a claim. So the reason why we capture the defendant's email address, and one of the benefits of our service is that the claim is actually sent, or notification of the claim is sent to the defendant by email. We have actually seen defendants receiving those emails, logging into the service to verify and to link the claim to an account, responding and providing a full response to the claim within as little as 15 minutes. Okay, and now we capture information around the claim amount. Okay, so what we allow the claimant to do here is to actually break the amount that they're claiming down into multiple amounts if they relate to different things. The example that we provide here is about a damaged roof. So the items could be broken tiles or roof damage. It allows the claimant to provide more information than they can do currently. So I'll stick with the example that we use here. So roof damage, 250, expensive quilt. Okay, and then we provide the claimant with the total that they're claiming for. Okay, now we ask the claimant if they'd like to claim interest. If they would like to claim interest, they can do that in two ways, either for the same rate for the whole period or broken down into different periods. That would be applicable if say, the claimant was claiming for unpaid rent, where obviously each payment would be owed for a different period of time and would attract a different amount of interest. Just for ease, I'm going to say the same rate for the whole period. We then ask the claimant what rate they would like to claim, 8% being the amount that you can claim under the Section 69 of the County Courts Act. However, we allow the claimant to claim a different rate if they, for example, have a contract with the defendant that would allow them to charge a different rate. Okay, when are we claiming interest from? Okay, this happened on a particular date, so I'm going to claim interest from that date. That date being the 1st of January 2018. When do I want to stop claiming interest? I'm going to claim interest up until the time that the claim is settled or judgment. Okay, so now we provide a summary to the claimant of the amount that they're claiming. So there's the claim amount of £650, the interest to date of £14, the appropriate claim fee of £70, which provides a total of £734. If the claimant is interested to see how court fees are calculated, we provide them the information in the drop-down. Okay, the next thing we ask the claimant to provide is the details of the claim. So this is just really a brief explanation of what happened. What we don't expect from the claimant is a detailed timeline. As we advise the claimant, we'll ask them for that separately. I'll just add some very brief details. Okay, so this is the timeline that we referred to on the previous page. This allows the claimant to break down things that have happened within the claim. For example, the date that the damage occurred, so the 1st of January 2018. And then also provide information perhaps on when they contacted the defendant to try to rectify the issue. The claimant can also add additional boxes if they run out of room. We don't limit the amount of information that the claimant provides at this stage. The claimant then has an opportunity to refer to their evidence. That's all it is currently. Is just information with regards to the evidence that they hold. What we don't ask is that the claimant uploads evidence at this stage. Okay, and the last thing that the claimant has to do is check their claim and submit. So here are all the details replayed to the claimant that they've just entered. So here's all the claimant's details, followed by the defendant's details, some information about interest, and the timeline. There's the amount claimed, all the claim details, and the statement of truth. Okay, so now we have to enter the card details. In the litigant in person journey that is currently live, the only method of payment is by card. Within our private beta service that we have for legal representatives, we do allow the claimant to pay by account. Okay, we provide the email address again here, as this will send a receipt to the claimant for their payment. Okay, let's just confirm the payment. Okay, and the claim has been submitted. So what we can see from the screen now is some information on what happens next for the claimant, part of which is the deadline by which the defendant needs to respond. Also some information advising that they could request additional time, and some brief information about requesting a county court judgment. What the claimant can also do from here is download a copy of their claim form. This has all the information that they've provided, and it's also the same as what will go to the defendant. The only difference being that the claimant's copy is not sealed. Okay, the claimant can then return to their account. Within their account, they can see that the claim has been sent. That claim will have been sent by email. This is just a notification to the defendant. The service of the claim will be by post, and the claimant can then confirm the current status of the claim from their dashboard. Okay, now we'll move to the defendant's response to the claim. The defendant will have an opportunity to respond, and that service is still done by post, but like I say, we notify the defendant by email. This is the defendant's page. Again, this is live on gov.uk. So although the prototype might not work, the service is live and works for members of the public. Okay, let's have a quick look at the defendant's journey. Okay, the defendant provides the claim number that they received on their claim form, enters their security code. They can then access the claim. Here are the claim details provided by the claimant, reason for the claim, a timeline of the claim, reference to any evidence that they have. The defendant then can create an account and respond to the claim. So just providing first name, last name, and email address, the defendant can create their account. The defendant receives an email. They can then create a password and log in. Okay, so this is again the task list. This is now the defendant's task list, and the defendant can start to look at the claim, confirm their details, and provide their response. So this is the defendant's details as provided by the claimant. The defendant can update their address within this page. They can also provide a separate service address if they'd like to do that. We then ask the defendant to confirm their date of birth, enter a phone number, and again the phone number will be used to arrange small claims mediation appointments, the same as it is for the claimant. Okay, so this next screen is asking the defendant if they'd like more time to respond. And if we just go back to the task list, we can see on the right-hand side of the task list, we have some response details and some information around the claim. So we've got the claim reference number, the total amount of the claim, but also it's quite clear on when the defendant's deadline to respond is. Just as in the current process, where the defendant can file an acknowledgement of service, within our journey, the defendant can request extra time. They don't need to provide a reason as they do in the current service. They just tick the box saying, yes, I need an extra 14 days. We then tell them when their new response date will be. And as this confirms, an email will have gone to both the claimant and the defendant confirming the extra time to respond. Okay, so now the defendant can choose their response. We have some hint text which explains what the different options mean, and we have 3 radio buttons for the defendant to choose. Either I admit all of the claim, I admit part of the claim, or I reject all of the claim. For this claim, I'm going to choose I reject all. Why do you reject all? Either I've paid what I believe I owe, so possibly in between the claim being issued and me responding, I will have paid the claimant, so I could defend it based on the fact that I've paid, or I dispute all the claim, or actually I want to make a counterclaim. In this case, I'm just going to dispute the claim. Okay, so why do I disagree? So what we have here is a free text box where the claimant can provide their defence, but also whilst they're doing this, we replay the information that the claimant provided at the top of the screen. So this is the claimant's reasons for making the claim. We then have the opportunity for the defendant to reply to that. Rather than typing in a fancy defence, I'm just going to write defence. This box, so currently Money Claim Online has a very limited response options and very limited response text. So you can only use a limited number of characters. On issuing a claim, you can only use 1,080 characters. Within our service, we actually don't like to limit those boxes, allowing both the claimant and the defendant to provide a full claim and response. Okay, so what we've done on this screen is replay the claimant's timeline. So the defendant can see what the claimant has said within their timeline. They can then provide their own timeline of events based on what the claimant has told us. Okay, so this is just the defendant's response to the claimant's timeline, saying how the claimant has not told the truth. Okay, so now we're on to evidence. One of the screens that we couldn't see within the claimant journey is the claimant's reference to evidence. We don't currently allow either a claimant or a defendant to upload documents to support either their claim or their response, but we allow them to refer to that evidence. So this is the claimant's evidence. The claimant states that they have a contract or an agreement which was signed by the defendant and that has been broken. They also have photos to support their claim. So what has the defendant got? Okay, so the defendant also have photos. And they have expert witness. Again, the defendant believes that all of the claimant's evidence is not correct. So something that we're keen to do within our service is to promote a resolution between the parties and not necessarily always proceed into a hearing. So as we can see, this next section the defendant needs to complete is about mediation and specifically the small claims mediation service. So you can see that we have free mediation and gives a little bit of information on what the small claims mediation service is and what a mediator will do. So this defendant is willing to try mediation. Okay, so in every journey, before you complete the journey, the information that you've just entered will be replayed to both parties. The information that you've just entered will be replayed to you. So you can see here are my details. Here's my date of birth. This is how I choose to respond. I reject all of the claim because I dispute it. Hopefully, a defendant would provide a better defense than mine. Here's the timeline. Here's the evidence. Yes, I will try mediation, and here's my statement of truth. Okay, so let's submit my response. Okay, brilliant. So I have now just responded to my claim. You can see nice big letters, you've submitted your response, there's my claim number, and here's what happens next. You offered to try mediation, so that's in there as well, which is great. And what I can actually do as well is download a copy of my response. So here it is. You can see when the claim was issued, when the response was submitted. There's all the details and my statement of truth that I've just confirmed. Another thing that I can do within this service that is different to the conventional service is we have the idea of settling the claim out of court. So although the defendant has just provided a defence, they can do something that is linear to the current process, and we call that settle the claim out of court. So let's just have a little look what the defendant can do. So they can make an offer to settle out of court. You may avoid getting a county court judgment if you settle out of court. Okay, let's have a look at this. Okay, so we can make an offer. This is currently in the live service. It is being used by claimants and defendants. So what can we do? Okay, so here's an example of what I can do. I will pay you £240 on the 29th of April by bank transfer. If you're also asking Jan Clark to do something, say clearly when you will do it by. Okay, so I will put everything right and make sure you're happy. Okay, so when will all of this be done by? It will all be done by the 1st of December. Okay, brilliant. So my offer has been sent to Jan Clark. Jan Clark then receives an email saying that you can log into your account, something has happened. And let's just have a little look at what Jan Clark will receive. Okay, so the defendant has made an offer to settle out of court. So once the claimant has logged into their account, this is what they'll see, their status there. The defendant has made an offer. Okay, so let's have a look. So we can see here, Mary Richards has made an offer to settle out of court. You must accept or reject before this time. Okay, so let's have a look. So, like I say, this is the prototype. So the offer isn't going to be the same as I entered a second ago, but we have the idea of what it is. I will fix the roof if you'll give me access and pay for any extra materials. By when? The 1st of December. Do you accept this offer? Yes, I do. You will make a legal agreement between you and Mary Richards. Okay, let's have a little look. Okay, you can now make a legal agreement. And here are the terms of the agreement. There's the offer, there's the completion date, there's some information about what will happen, and also some information if the agreement is broken. The claimant can apply to request a county court judgment, resume the original claim, or ask the court to enforce any steps. Okay, I'm happy with that. You've signed the agreement. Great. Okay, now let's have a look at what the defendant will then receive. Okay, so the claimant accepted your offer and signed a legal agreement. You need to sign the agreement to settle out of court. Okay, let's have a look. So there's the terms of the agreement. So obviously this is exactly the same for the defendant as what it is for the claimant. I confirm that I've read it. So now both parties will have signed the agreement. Oh, brilliant. Okay, so now this has been signed, an agreement has been drawn up, and we can download a copy of that agreement. Here it is. So here's the settlement agreement with both parties' details, what was agreed, and the signature. Okay, so all of this information will then sit in the parties' dashboard, so they can come back and they can retrieve this at any time. They can download copies of the claim, or maybe not, and they can find out other information about the claim from their dashboard. Okay, that brings to an end a demonstration of the service. Apologies that not everything worked, but it does work in the live service. So thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you very much, Mark. That's very helpful. Apologies for the slight mishap in the earlier part of the presentation, so that's something that's beyond our control. But as Mark said, the system is live and is being used now quite significantly online by the public. Now we have, so Kerry and Mark are going to stay with us, and we've been getting lots of questions, which I'm going to try and work through, and we'll answer as many as we can. As I said before, for those questions we can't answer in the next 20 minutes or so, we'll make sure are answered online in writing. So I'm going to kick off and ask Kerry. First question is, what sort of negative feedback have you had so far?
One of the pieces of feedback we had was that when people are filling the claim out online, they were starting to put the timeline in the narrative box, and we recognised that. So then we added a line in the service to say, please do not include the timeline here. You will get an opportunity to do it on the next page. So that was based on feedback that we got from users, saying I didn't realise it was on the next page. I'd written it out and then I had to repeat myself. So we put a line in to tell users that.
Great, thank you. Next question. I work at a commercial law firm specialising in banking litigation and commercial litigation. Do you envisage that I will be able to use MCOL for money claims up to £25,000?
The simple answer is yes, you will be able to. The service at the moment is for legal litigants in person, one-on-one claims up to £10,000. That's for our pilot, but we know that will expand up to 25,000 and will be available to all users.
Thank you. Next question, who is your feedback from? Claimants or defendants?
The majority of the feedback's actually from the claimants. Claimants seem to be more willing to provide both positive and negative feedback. We've received about 2,500 pieces of feedback from our users. We do also collect feedback from defendants. They are less satisfied, shall we say, than the claimants, and less willing to provide the feedback. But we receive it from both.
Okay, thank you, Mark. By removing the need for paper, does it mean that more can be uploaded? At the moment, some files are too big to attach to the online system.
With the developments that we're making, I can't see that file size should be an issue. Both the upload and download of large file sizes should be available within our service.
Thank you. Are defendants served digitally or by post?
Service is by post. However, we notify the defendant by email that a claim has been issued against them. The defendant can then log in from that email, from the information that's provided in the email, and they can respond prior to receiving the actual served claim in the post.
Thank you. I'll ask the next question. I think you answered it earlier, but perhaps you could elaborate. Is the new money claims service available for legal professionals?
Yep, so as I mentioned earlier on, we actually will be available for legal professionals. Currently we have a private pilot by invitation only, and there are 10 legal firms that are taking part in that, helping us to design, taking into account needs. So I think, as I mentioned earlier, 1,900 claims have been issued so far within that service, but certainly that service will be expanded and open to all users in the future.
Thank you. Was a particular question about the demo. Was there a reason why the demo did not capture the email address but did capture your phone number? For the claimant, the email address is part of the account, so we don't need to capture the email address for the claimant. Part of the defendant's journey would have been to capture their email address, but not for the claimant, as their account is their email address. Thank you. Sending the security code by email on the claim notification could potentially allow someone other than the defendant to enter the response portal. Is there another form of validation?
There isn't a separate form of validation. However, we see this as being the same as receiving the claim by post, which is that somebody who is not the defendant could potentially receive a claim form, open that claim and respond. The response requires a statement of truth. We believe that is sufficient within the journey.
Thank you. If the defendant admits the claim, is it clear for them to understand the consequences?
I hope so, and from our testing, it appears that people understand the next thing that will happen. Within the journey, if a defendant states that they wish to admit, we tell them that a county court judgment may well be entered against them by the claimant. We also advise them of what the implications of receiving a county court judgment are. Within our journey that we will be releasing quite soon, within the admission journey, the claimant can actually have an additional option. It's not just that they can enter a county court judgment, they could also choose a settlement agreement. If both parties agree, then the case can be resolved by settlement agreement rather than just a county court judgment.
Right. Some further questions about, more detailed questions about the particular system. If the defendant wants to write more than can fit in the box, or wants to format the defence better, do they have the option other than filling in the box?
A defendant can always respond by post. Obviously, it's not something that we would like to encourage. We'd like to use users to use the digital service and to keep the case digital. It actually benefits both parties to keep it digital. The character limit within our service is 99,999 characters. So I think it should be sufficient for the defendant to fit their defence within the box. However, we monitor the usage of the box and can amend it where necessary.
Thanks, Mark. You talked a bit about the research that went into developing the system. Kerry, what research have you done to identify and engage with groups who find it difficult to access online services?
So there is assisted digital provision within the service, and that can be by telephone, so users will ring up, and in the early days of shortly after 26th March, we saw quite a few people who needed different levels of support. Some just needed to help without being able to log onto their account. Some required some explanation, but not legal advice, but explanation around what is it they need, the next step, the next process. There also is the option of somebody having a face-to-face appointment should they need it, and that's with the Good Things Foundation. Actually, what we've seen so far is that not many people have required that level of support, but people have ringing and having telephone support, and the feedback we got was that actually people were saying having that assisted digital support had allowed them to continue and finish either completing their claim or responding to their claim in a digital way.
Thank you. I'll press on. We've still got some time, so we've got plenty of questions, which is great. Picking another one, are you considering the ability, that's related, Mark, to your earlier point, are you considering the ability for users to be able to upload evidence in the future?
Yes. As the journey matures, we will certainly be looking to have the upload function for evidence, maybe when the claim is issued, maybe when the defendant responds, but certainly as case progression happens in case management. So upload of possibly bundles of evidence and things like that later as the journey matures. It's certainly within our scope, yes.
And some further questions about the particular system. So if both parties tick yes to free mediation, is the free mediation service notified directly? Not
directly. They are notified via our support team. So we have an administrative support team that supports the pilot. When both parties say yes, they are notified. They in turn notify the small claims mediation service.
Okay. How does the claimant pay for the claim to be issued?
Within our service that's in public beta, we actually use something called GovPay. It's a common component across all of the services within Reform. So all we have in public beta is the ability to pay by card. However, within our private beta service that is currently being tested with 10 legal representative firms, we use PBA or pay by account or fee account. So the ability to pay on account rather than paying by card per transaction. Okay.
I've got a series of questions about some level of detail, which I'm going to sort of fire at you so we can get through them. Firstly, if the defendant reneges or defaults on a settlement agreement, would there be a timescale to adhere to before applying for a county court judgment, or can this be immediate?
As soon as the defendant breaches the settlement agreement, the claimant can request the county court judgment.
Okay, thank you. Can a defendant make a counterclaim?
Yes, however, it's not live. So we're currently designing the counterclaim process. It's something that we'll look to deliver over the coming months. They can't currently, but they will be able to, yes.
I suppose to some extent related to that, is there an option to continue a claim solely by post if that is a preference by the party?
Yeah,
yes.
So you can. Yes, if somebody wants to do that, and in fact for the counterclaim, that if you wanted to do that within the service, you would do it on paper using post.
Thank you. We're rattling through them, but I hope that's okay, especially for those who are listening online. But we'll carry on. Is there an automated process for seeking judgment in default?
No, not an automated process, not within the service that we have currently. All judgments by default need to be requested by the claimant.
Okay. Is the claimant notified if the defendant changes their details, for example, their address?
Yes.
Good. Next question. Is there any technology on mediation?
Yeah, it depends what we mean by technology. Currently, all we're delivering is a route into the small claims mediation service. We're not necessarily delivering at least at the current time, we're not delivering an improved or a changed small claims mediation service. We are just delivering a route into the existing HMCTS small claims mediation service.
Great, thank you. I do have a question on enforcement, which I'm going to ask Emily to answer in a moment, but just to perhaps to look through any further questions on small sort of mini claims. I think that might be all I have on. So I do apologize. There's one or two more. How did we talked about? Can the party that made a settlement offer see a copy of the offer after they've made it?
The settlement agreement?
Yes.
The settlement agreement is available within the dashboard of the parties. So once it's signed, there is a PDF of the agreement within the dashboard for both parties.
Great.
That could be downloaded and printed off if somebody wanted to do that, but it's there for them to look at.
Thank you. I have a question on enforcement for Emily, who's joined us. Do you have an approximate timeline yet for when the enforcement phase will go into the design and testing? And testing by whom?
Yeah, so the enforcement project started earlier this year in January, and we spent the first couple of months engaging with users just to identify opportunities and feedback. So we've held, I think it's about 67 interviews, various workshops, an online survey which has generated about 160 responses. All of the feedback's been really useful, and we'll be starting to commence testing, specifically firstly on the writ of control process in the next month or two, and in terms of who we will be doing that with, It will be individual claimants, defendants, firms, and High Court enforcement officers, so a range of our different users. High-level timeframes for release of our first product, is likely to be in spring 2019, but we're just working through the detail at the moment.
Thanks, Emily. I'm back on civil money. Another question we've had online. Are the offers made without prejudice?
They are. We may well not have seen within the screens as I rattled through them quite quickly, but both parties are made aware that the offers are without prejudice, and if unsuccessful, certainly shouldn't be discussed if the case goes to hearing. So yes, they are without prejudice.
Thank you so much, Mark. Well, that concludes the questions we received. If I've missed any, I do apologise. And as I said before, if there were some questions that haven't been answered, then we'll make sure that they are answered in written form and placed online. I want to say a particular thank you to Mark, Kerry and Emily for their presentations and answering the questions so well. But particularly want to thank those joining online. I hope this session has been useful. It is as I said before, it is one of a number of events, both online and face-to-face, in which HMCTS will be engaging legal professionals and professional core users across different aspects of the reform programme. I do hope it has been useful. We will be looking for feedback so we can make sure that these events really do enhance the understanding and the ability of legal professionals and professional court users to engage with us on some of these issues. Please do look at our website, where you can find out more information about the reform programme more generally, as well as more specific issues related to the issues we've discussed today and elsewhere. There are also a number of other channels in which you can engage in contact and hear from us via Twitter, via LinkedIn, YouTube, and do please, for those with particular issues you want to raise or suggestions of how we can improve or suggestions on particular projects within reform, you can email us at changesomething.matters@justice.gov.uk. So please do use that, those different options. Thank you again for joining us today. Do keep looking at our website for further information. Thank you again to all those who presented, and we will hopefully speak to you soon.